Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and waddles presented by Bolin Media. I am Ross Bolin here with Barrett Dudley, and today we'll be discussing episode 2 of The Penguin on HBO starring Colin Farrell. How we doing, Barrett?
Yeah. We're going to discuss it, Ross. We're going to discuss it, but I got a bone to pick with you, huh?
Oh, you worked on this.
I heard you don't want to wake no more. You don't want to come to the podcast no more. You're obsessed with these drops. You're a drop head now. You got some new drug, but you can't adapt too quickly, Ross. You can't adapt too quickly. We got to work here. We got some work to be done. Guys like me and you, we got a podcast. Otherwise, we end up in the ditch with the other guys.
It's a vast improvement. I think that's a much improved penguin right there. Well done, sir. Well done.
Yeah,
Please clap.
Thank you.
I feel the need to not bury the lead today and get your overall thoughts on this episode up top, though.
Okay. Yeah.
In your normal voice,
preferably.
In
my normal voice. Yeah, I don't think I could sustain my penguin voice for too much longer
long
there. No, I thought it was good. I liked it. I like what the show is. We talked a little bit last week about just the kind of modern day prestige, right? And does prestige really fit, or is it just really high production value plus a movie star in a show? Right. And I don't know that the show necessarily wants to be prestige-y. And I feel like episode 2 kind of got down more into what it wants to be, which is just a tense, gritty, crime thriller, Yeah,
I thought you hit the nail on the head with that description of prestige production value plus a movie star.
Yeah.
With a fairly generic story.
Yeah.
In terms of the crime and the mob,
right?
Stuff.
But I'm okay with that. I thought this episode was really fun. I thought watching Oz kind of be adaptable, have to kind of he's a cockroach, man. Oz is a cockroach. You can't kill this guy, right?
Having to make moves on the fly.
He makes moves on the fly all the time. There's a reason why he's at the top and why he's still doing this. He's good at this. He's good at being quick on his feet, and we saw that here. We continue to get more of the I didn't think this episode tried as hard as episode 1 to be cutesy about it in a way, we are still I think he is still our protagonist. We still want him to come out on top, but also we watched him straight up murder a dude with a knife to the heart. That is he's a bad motherfucker.
A low down and dirty dude.
Yeah. So it's I thought this episode made progress. It came in under an hour. Still thought it felt just a tiny bit long.
I'm with you.
And I know that I'm a broken record with that, but right now, the voice I still kind of chuckle at. I like the voice. I like Colin Farrell's performance. Every time he hits one of those New York R's, I still kind of just smile a little bit. But right now, I would say if there's anything that I'm not sure about, it's the mom piece, because it's kind of weird and incestuous, right? They're definitely doing something there.
Yeah.
Even Sophia is you went and you danced with your mom,
right? So they're kind of making a mockery of it,
yeah.
Even within the show, which it's interesting for sure.
And then I feel for this, maybe it'll have a payoff later. Maybe it will make more sense. I know that we're trying to kind of add to the dimensionality of the character, but if you pull that 5 minutes out, which literally stops them from going to the funeral, right? We're going, and then we have to do this side quest to go see mom. It just it's a hard stop that kind of stops the movement of the show.
The momentum is gone. Yeah.
And I feel if you chop that 5 minutes off, this episode is even better. Just from a pace standpoint, because the back half of it, watching him kind of wheel and deal and move and shake with the Persians. Now we got the Persian mafia up in here.
There's a lot going on.
But I'm having a lot of fun with all that, and I like this one. Even kind of I talk about my love for spy shows. This one had an espionage feel going on.
Yeah. One of the best elements of this thing so far has been Oz's ability to maneuver when things go wrong and like you said, kind of work on the fly. And I think that keeps the story a little more exciting than it otherwise would be. I agree with you about the scene with his mom. It's kind of an interesting setup in episode 1 with the mom and the
Right.
dementia, and you're like, okay, so this guy's kind of a old, like the Italian gangster stereotype of a mama's boy. But after this week's scene with her and her having dementia and all that, like, they're gonna need some payoff down the road there. My guess is that she's going to die somehow, and it's going to push him further to the dark side of things.
All right.
Because right now he's still, even as he's this ruthless murderer, he's still kind of this lovable, ugly doofus.
Yeah.
And we can't just keep doing this every week. With the mom.
Exactly. We don't want just like a stop in at the mom's house every single week.
Like let's be reminded that his mom's a demented old bat. You know what I mean? Like it's just not gonna pay off every week. So all in all, I thought this one was okay. This was sort of, in my opinion, quality-wise, a drop-off from episode 1, but that's also sort of the way it typically works. Like, you want to start on a high note. Mm-hmm. Put your best foot forward with like, your pilot or your premiere, and then you've kind of got to settle into the storytelling and develop the story and get the characters rolling, and then, work your way toward the middle of the season.
What else stood out to you that was maybe like, that felt like a step down here?
Let's walk through the episode and I'll tell you the points that I was kind of like,
sure.
So episode 2 is called Inside Man. Same director, Craig Zobel.
Yes.
Same writer, Lauren LaFranc, just like the series premiere. And this one starts off with Sophia Falcone, a.k.a. the Hangman. At first you think she's having a dream, or like a nightmare, rather, about her time in Arkham Asylum where her brother Alberto visits her, and then he gets shot, right? And she witnesses it. But then she comes to, and she's in therapy, and she's doing this. I can't remember what it's called, but it's this light therapy, where they have you basically go back in your memory to a situation.
Is this like a legit thing?
This is a real thing.
With this with this moving red light?
Yes.
It's got to be kind of like hypnotic, right?
Yeah, basically. It's like a version of hypnosis, sort of.
Hypnotherapy.
But if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's used to treat PTSD pretty commonly.
Interesting.
And essentially you focus on the light and you put yourself in your mind back to a situation that like haunts you or that traumatized you or whatever. Long story short, that she's not dreaming. She's not having a nightmare. She's in this therapy session, right? Mm-hmm. So she comes to and she's like freaking out. She's having trouble like reacclimating herself with reality. And so her therapist comforts her. This dude's Dr. Julian Rush is her therapist. They show you like his nameplate on his desk, right? Comforts her, gets her to calm down and like breathe with him. And it's kind of like semi-sexual, maybe not on purpose, but like he's like, he's cuddling her. They're very close.
Yeah. There was more. Yeah. Speaking of sexual tension,
some sparks there for sure.
Yes.
And then she sort of like gets up and just like leaves the room. He's like, "You're safe," and she's like, "No, I'm not safe. I'm home," which is sort of a cheesy line, but it's also they're keeping that little like comic book kitschy element to this thing that's sort of paying off so far. I like the opening scene all in all, and I kind of got the feeling that this Dr. Julian Rush guy is going to come into play somehow. But then again...
So I actually just Googled that name because they obviously like hover on his name.
Right.
And I'm like, man, that sounds familiar. Why do I know the name Julian Rush? Snakes. I know a snakes. I know that name.
Home Alone.
Right? Like, so who... I'm actually looking up and I don't have an answer yet, but I do see some headlines like... Did the Penguin rework an iconic Batman villain? Did the Penguin just introduce a new version of a fan favorite Batman something or other?
Yeah. So
I
kind of got that vibe too.
He's somebody. He's definitely somebody.
But my question becomes, I think this is an 8-episode season.
Right.
Like, do we have time for that? And we've questioned whether or not there will even be a season 2 and how that will all pan out with the Batman 2 needing to come out before the season. Anyway. Just something to put a pin in, this Dr. Julian Rush therapist that Sophia Falcone is seeing. So Oz, a.k.a. the Penguin, goes back to Blackgate Prison to visit Salvatore Maroni and basically chat with him about the situation that he has set up as of the series premiere between the Maronis and the Falcones. And Sal sees very quickly through what Oz is doing, trying to force his hand to go to war with the Falcones. And Oz explains to him, like, look, man, you're already gloating by wearing the ring around the prison. You might as well lean into this. I've got your family back on the map. The streets are talking. They think the Maronis are back or whatever, just kind of feeding into the whole situation. So Oz tells Maroni he's going to set up basically a heist where he is acting as the inside man, Oz is, and the Maroni crew can rob the Falcone crew and get their drugs, all these drops. Now, this was kind of a confusing
They
scene.
want the drops, Ross.
It felt like old school Batman, like Christopher Nolan Batman action scenes, right? It's a car chase, there's a shootout, there's a lot happening, it's chaotic. And the plan initially was for Oz to be in the follow car, so the second car, not the one with all the drops in it where Maroni's men will whack everybody and they won't touch the follow car so that Oz will be safe. But at the last second during the setup, and this was well done where Oz is in Blackgate, he's explaining it to Maroni, and we're also getting these flashes to see it actually unfolding. At the last second, Johnny Vitti, the dude who's like second in charge in the Falcone family, comes up and tells Penguin that he has to be in the car with the product. And Johnny does call him Penguin, if you didn't flag that.
Oh, I didn't
so I think it's the first time we hear him referred to as Penguin, and it's almost like meant to be an insult, I think. He throws that at him in front of all the men, right? So this whole thing turns into a bloodbath. Oz is in the car with the drops, and two guys back there with him guarding the drops, plus a driver. There's like some pretty cheesy back and forth and joke making between Oz and the henchmen, and then Oz ends up having to waste the two henchmen himself. And it turns out the driver's not dead. So when one of the Maroni men comes in to
a capo, right?
Wasn't that one drops, of the capos? I think so.
One of the capo that we met at the prison.
Yeah, maybe
not.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
But it just all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. Yes.
And he ends up having to kill a bunch of Maroni's men too.
Yes.
So that his cover's not blown.
Right. And so that he can escape back with the Falcone crew.
So first watch through, I was like, "What?"
No, it was confusing.
I had no clue what happened here. Had to watch it again to really get a grasp on like who was who that he was whacking and when.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, so it does not go off without a hitch, and I believe the Falcones fail to steal all the drops.
No, I think the Maronis did get the drops because the Falcones are mad about.
Oh, you're right.
They did lose the drops.
Yeah. Okay.
I think because they had to ditch the FEMA truck.
Yeah.
And so arguably there were still some Maroni men around to collect, I think.
I guess. Not again.
Yeah.
It was confusing.
It was confusing, I agree.
Fun little action scene, but wasn't my favorite. It was kind of I thought it could have been done better, is my point.
Yeah.
So the Falcone crew meets to discuss what the hell happened. Oz attempts to cast the blame on Johnny Vitti because it was his route for the hijacking. He's like, "You picked the route! New York!" And Sophia comes in and says, like, it's not even about the drops. It's not even about the money. It's about justice for my brother, you know?
Yeah.
She's really focused on that element of the whole thing and doesn't like that that's not being brought up in the conversation around what went wrong here. And, she also is like, and there's clearly a rat in our outfit. Like, how the hell did they know the route? How did they know when we were doing this and where we were going? So she wants to find out who's working with the Maronis within their family. Luca Falcone, who was Carmine Falcone, the late Carmine Falcone's brother, is now the head of the family.
Yes, he was not in episode 1.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And so Johnny Vitti is like his underboss.
Yes.
Luca is at the top. Sophia's sort of just like...
It's like in episode 1, like they hadn't figured out who was going to step into main boss role.
Right. So they just had Johnny Vitti and his assistant in there.
Yeah.
But Luca shuts down this whole conversation around rats and who's to blame. And he's like, tells Sophia to, first of all, that none of this is her decision because he's the boss. And that she needs to focus on her brother's funeral and burying Alberto and laying him to rest. So after that conversation, which you can tell Sophia's rubbed the wrong way by all of this, right? She's trying to come in and assert herself and say, this is what matters. And then she's being told, basically, shut up. Your opinion is not needed here. So Oz grabs her and tells her one-on-one that he's willing to let like bygones be bygones regarding what happened at the end of episode 1, where she has him stripped naked and tortured. And that like he owes her one.
Yeah.
Still.
So this was a piece that now Sophia is very clearly like still suspicious of Oz here.
Right.
And she should be, because I feel like he's playing this a little bit too eagerly. Like,
a little over the top, yeah.
Right, because you have to think about, okay, if you're really legitimately super seriously innocent of any wrongdoing here, you're fucking pissed off.
Right.
You just
almost died.
You just had your arm nearly sliced off with a garroting wire by these assholes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And he's like, it's fine.
It's fine. It's water under the bridge. Oh man, see, that penguin voice hurts my throat.
Yeah. But then on top of that, he was almost just murdered in this situation with the rat. And he doesn't seem too upset about that either. He's just kind of like, I'm with you.
Exactly.
110%, boss.
I think his whole thing is like, and she picks up on it. So at least the writing reflects that she's basically like, I don't know you shit. Like, I'm not into whatever is happening here.
Right.
And kind of shuts it down.
Stop trying to hitch your wagon
to
my wagon.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah. And he's trying to drive a wedge between Sophia and the current Falcone leadership, Luca and Johnny Vitti, and you feel like she kind of picks up on that too. She's not totally sold on his whole shit that he's selling right now. So Sophia starts making some moves on her own to try to find this rat. She meets with a dude named Detective Weiss, a former informant for her father, who she convinces with a bunch of money and drops to help her cause. He's like, nope. She approaches him and he's like completely out. He's like, I don't want anything to do with this. But then she's like, you want to get high? And he really does.
What do you think Drops is most like? Is Drops basically like crack?
I think it's more like
Coke.
Based on what we see in the Batman movie with people doing drops at the club, it feels like it's like a combination. Yeah. Like somewhere between like a mix of like Molly and cocaine, because it does seem to be highly addictive.
Right, it's got like the fix aspect of it.
Yeah, but it's also like
desperate to get their drop fix.
It's like a euphoric party drug, though.
Right,
So I think Molly's probably our closest comp. So yeah, this dude Detective Weiss is gonna be working for Sophia, trying to figure out who the rat is. We also find out, I can't remember if she's watching a TV or she's in a car hearing on the radio, but they're discussing how like she should still be locked up.
As she is the hangman and maybe a serial killer.
She killed 7 women.
Right.
7 women.
Yeah.
Which is, that's a serial killer. That's a lot of different women. And I assume at some point we're going to get the information around why. Mm-hmm. Like, why did she whack 7 different women? And I'm guessing it's going to be like women her father slept with or something like that. That's just my guess right now. I have no real reason for that guess. I'm just like putting things together. But yeah, that's what landed her in Arkham. And that's where she got the hangman thing. She killed 7 different women. At Alberto's funeral, Oz continues his courtship of Sophia by telling her he didn't get to have a funeral for his brothers because his ma didn't want to deal with the pity. And he gives this monologue about how him and his mom, his mom was down in the dumps, she wouldn't talk, she wouldn't come out of her room, all that stuff. And then eventually he got her to like go out to a club and they danced all night together to celebrate his brother's demise. And he also lies and says his mother is dead now to Sophia, I think in an effort to protect his mom from any potential blowback.
Damn, I did not. I totally missed that.
Which I did like that detail. And then he leaves Sophia with the point, it's a hell of a lot more fun to dance. Than it is to mourn and grieve, which is more good writing here because they tie that in at the end of the episode. But yeah, this is where she's like, you went out with your mom and danced all night? This is that's a weird move, right? It's strange.
And he talks about like how she got all dressed up and like...
It's like they went on a date.
It's like they went on a date.
Danced all night together.
Yes. He took his mom on a date and they danced.
As a way
at
to
the club.
Bury his brothers, which is just a weird fucking story, right? So Detective Wise ends up bringing Sophia a heavily drugged up man named Ervad, the Maroni's capo and one of the dudes from the hijacking. He's basically like, you can get the information you're looking for out of this guy. He can tell you who the rat is or whatever. So he's taken to the basement, Ervad is, to sober up so he can be questioned because he's like basically unconscious, right? Mm-hmm. Also somewhere in here, Oz and Vic party with Oz's girl Eve and some other cam girls.
Yes, post like after the heist,
Right.
They're like, taking a load off. They invite the ladies over for Taco Tuesday, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taco Tuesday.
I liked how there were only 3 tacos, though. There were just 3 tacos on
Yeah,
a
I
plate.
don't have a lot of
Were those
food.
just for Oz? I don't know.
You're fucking weird,
He
yeah.
doesn't like cilantro.
Yeah, he has a real problem with
But
cilantro.
she seems to be kind of a madam, the one that Oz is like kind of with.
Eve, yeah.
Eve, yeah. And she's warning him that he doesn't know how deep in he is with all this, and that she doesn't want Sofia Falcone knocking on her door because, she's a serial killer.
Yeah, she's basically like, look, man, I figured out why you used me, or why you needed an alibi.
Right,
You murdered Alberto Falcone. You've dragged me and my girls into this, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
You're putting us in danger. It's really difficult to get a read on like what exactly Oz and Eve's relationship is, but like there's some type of romantic vibe there.
Yes, but also transactional.
Right.
Yeah.
One of those things.
Yeah.
I like the little sort of modern day, like these are like they're cam girls. They're not just prostitutes.
Right.
They're cam girls. Like you know what I mean? There's a little bit of a modern update there. Also, this scene serves to give like this part of what this episode does is Oz is explaining to his boy Victor like how he got his start.
Yes.
He used to be just a driver for this guy. That guy got whacked. The other guy saw something in him, right? Falcone did. So he's just he's trying to impress upon him like, here's the career path. You're in the same place I started.
Correct. Yep.
And you could get to where I am if you work really hard and kill a whole bunch of people, right? Just become a total scumbag with
You gotta wake, Vic.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay, that's the last time I do that.
But so yeah, we talked about it already, but he goes to see his mom. She's having more dementia issues. A neighbor finds her like wandering the street in a church dress when it's not even Sunday. She's very confused. Oz dances with her some more in front of Vic. Is just there the whole time too. Like for that whole scene, they like pan over to him at one point. And you're like, Jesus, this is so awkward. But she kind of keeps pushing on him, like she wants him to go deliver what she desires, which is the city. Like he's basically trying to take over the city of Gotham for his mom.
Right. She doesn't like the house that she's living in. She wants more lavish.
Yeah.
Digs, more feelings of grandeur.
Yeah.
She
wants to wear nice stuff.
Yeah.
And lose her mind in a nicer house.
In a fancy house. Yeah.
Yeah. So Oz heads out to continue his pursuit of the city in her name. The Maronis are pissed off about Irvad being taken. They blame his capture on Oz, so they're about to like execute him. And I guess the head Maroni's wife is now sort of acting as the boss in some form or fashion.
Yes.
And she's very upset. Oz ends up having to show them photos of Johnny Vitti, the underboss of the Falcone family, having an affair with Luca Falcone's wife, as a way to prove his loyalty to Maroni. I'm not sure how that's all going to factor in yet.
Yeah,
but
and I thought this was this part kind of starts his like having to like adapt all of this on the fly.
Right.
And so he's sort of one step ahead, right? He's always got an ace to play.
Yeah.
But he keeps having to play them at like at different tables, basically. He was supposed to drop this to Luca, which we see at the funeral. He's about to hand off that package to him.
And Luca just ignores him in public.
And blows him by, which means he still has it to offer as a chip to keep his life with the Maroni clan.
Right.
So he's kind of dumping that piece off with them. They can now use it to kind of like to achieve their own means, use it as blackmail or whatever else, and then we continue to see this play out.
So Oz ends up deciding, okay, well now I'm going to frame Johnny Vitti as the rat in the Falcone family.
Mm-hmm.
And he tasks Victor with planting the stolen jewels from Falcone's safe from episode 1. Remember when he's in there, like he takes the jewels and the blackmail on Johnny Vitti. which, just to take it back to that for a second, that means the other Falcone, the late Falcone boss, he knew about Johnny Viti's affair with his brother's wife because he has the envelope in the safe with the jewels. I don't think that's going to matter, but it's just a weird wrinkle.
Okay. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, so Victor's going to plant these stolen jewels in Johnny Viti's car while Oz goes and tells the captive, Irvad, hey, man, they're going to come in here and they're going to question you, and I can keep you safe and keep you from getting killed if the name you give them is Johnny Viti. Mm-hmm. Can you handle that? And Irvad is like, I can do this, Johnny Viti. Unfortunately, Victor gets caught trying to plant the jewels, blows it, runs off, calls Oz, tells him, hey, this didn't work out. So Oz once again has to go to plan B.
Yep.
Murders Irvad with a knife to the heart, very cold-blooded. And long story short, more chaos here at the Falcone residence. He ends up planting a knife on a dude named Castillo, who is Sophia's right-hand man, and frames him as the rat. Now, when it's unfolding, you think he's going to frame Johnny Viti anyway.
He's going for Viti. Yep.
But it seems like now that he knows he's got a situation where the Maronis have this blackmail on Viti, he wants to keep Viti in play.
Yep.
And instead decides to go with Castillo, sort of achieving the same means to an end.
When he's going to get the guy to say Viti, and he's going to get Vic to plant the jewels, I think he still thinks he has enough,
right,
to like fix the Viti situation and also get himself out of the bind with the Maronis, right?
And also get Sophia even more paranoid and upset.
But then when they don't get the jewels planted, all he's going to he doesn't have the photos anymore at his disposal.
Right.
And they don't have the jewels planted on his car. So all he's going to have is this dude's word. And that's what he even says. He's like, I need a sure thing.
Yeah.
So plans change. Wax Irvad, plants the knife on Castillo instead. And then this is another piece that I missed, but they somehow get the jewels into Castillo's apartment. I don't know when they do that.
Oh, really?
But that's, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah, Sophia mentions that towards the, like, I think when they're meeting at the end, she's like, yeah, they found the jewels in his apartment. Like,
okay, so I guess when he was on the phone with Vic, he's like, okay, plan B.
Yeah.
Take those to this other place. Yes, a lot of work was done on the fly here. It was part of what, there was some of the time it kind of worked for me. Others I was like, wait, what? Who? How? Why?
It was a lot to keep up with, for sure.
And it's not necessarily that I need to understand everything as it's happening. It'll need to pay off, down the line, episode 3, episode 4, whatever. Like, I just need to continue to see these things sort of make sense. And so once he's got the knife planted on Castillo, Sophia's like, give me your gun. And he's trying to convince her, like, I didn't do this. I've always been loyal to you. And before she can get his gun, Luca executes Castillo on the spot, which further upsets Sophia because she's not being allowed to make her own decisions about even her own crew at this point, right? So, also, Oz puts Vic in a grave with the 2 dudes he has to bury, and I can't remember which 2 dudes he's burying.
He's burying Castillo and Irvad.
Yep. He's trying to teach Vic a lesson, like, you screwed up. This is not a good start. I did every single thing that was ever asked of me when I was in your position, and you can't even get this one fucking thing done planting these jewels, which I still, again, I'm getting the impression that, like, Vic is going to get pushed further and further into sort of like he's going to have to break bad.
Right.
He's going to have to go all villain. He's still like this good kid that you're like, oh, I hope he doesn't get in trouble or get caught. And he's going to have to lose that vibe at some point. So, into the episode, Sophia, now rattled by not knowing who she can trust and being upset that Luca continuously undermines her wishes, decides she is ready to team up and dance with Oz. So now Oz, the big development this episode is that he has this psychotic partner in Sophia Falcone. They'll presumably be taking out the Falcone family leadership together before going after the Maronis. You've still got this Maroni versus Falcone thing that Oz has set up as well. He's also continuing to develop his little henchman, Victor. And
and the Castillo thing ends up working out really well because it finally convinces Sophia that she's, like, I think she's finally settled in, that she's able to pin this on somebody. And so she's not sniffing around Oz in the same way.
And she needs somebody that will work with her on this thing because the Falcone family is like she doesn't have a lot of control there.
Yeah.
And she wants that control. So yeah, that's the gist of it. It's like I said, pretty straightforward but also confusing episode. The A to B of it is that now Oz has Sophia Falcone as like a partner, a de facto partner of sorts. And there's still all this drama between the Maronis and the Falcones, and we'll have to see how it shakes out. Johnny Viti domino is yet to fall. Like we talked about, Maronis have this information on Johnny Viti that they can somehow use at some point. I'm not sure how that will come into play, but yeah, it was okay. It was okay. I was a little harsh on this one. I'd give it like a C+.
Okay.
Because I just was like, this was pretty like this is some shit I could have seen on any other network.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like this didn't feel this was not, as you put it, like HBO Prestige TV.
Yeah. Yeah. I was a little bit higher on it than you are, but I totally agree with that assessment. Like I thought it was enjoyable for what it was. Does it qualify as like a true HBO Sunday night show? Like, no, not really. But I didn't like this is kind of what we talked about in the lead up to this. Even just after watching the Batman, it's like it's really. I mean, we had a question on Patreon the other day about like kind of like why does The Last of Us get so much hype?
Right.
There's a teaser trailer for it before this episode, by the way. If you missed that or haven't watched it, looks fantastic.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
And we were kind of explaining that like Last of Us gets so much hype for a couple reasons. One, it's like it is maybe the best video game adaptation of all time, which was previously extremely hard to do. Really, really hard to do.
And adapted from what is considered to be one of the best video games of all time.
Of all time, from a storytelling perspective. Right.
Both The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2.
So I just think does Last of Us get maybe a little bit too much hype? Yeah, it's not the best show ever, but it's really, really good. And it's got all the same things that a show like Penguin does as well, right? It's got a movie star, it's got a superstar, it's got amazing production value, but it's got better, it's got better bones than this show does, right? It is a little bit more elevated. It is achieving like a higher level of storytelling, and so. But it's always going to be tough, I think, to pull from this realm of pre-existing IP, comic books and video games and whatnot, and turn it into something that is truly like that, like the HBO stuff that we really, really love, and put on the highest of pedestals. And recently, that's things like White Lotus and Succession, and
I mean, I think even The Last of Us sits up there somewhere near it. It's like it's hard to say with where we're at right now. I think,
but I think my point was that this is fun. It's entertaining. I'm enjoying watching it, but it's even a notch below The Last of Us for me,
for sure. So far, certainly. I think Colin Farrell as the Penguin is still the main selling point for me watching this. I want to see Sophia Falcone become completely unhinged and start doing wild shit.
Yep.
I think once they're both firing on all cylinders, I'll feel a lot better about this. But it depends how long that takes, what's going to happen between now and episode 8.
Sure.
And I just, I was really high on the series premiere. I felt really, really good about it. I thought it set the bar in a great place for this series. And this one just felt a little less polished and a little less impactful to me than the first one, which, like I said, that's fine. It doesn't. Just judging this one in a vacuum, that's where I'm at. And I still look forward to seeing what the hell happens from here. There was a lot of confusion and sort of some muddled plot development here that I was just like, what the fuck? Why is this so complicated? Jesus Christ. And at some point, it's going to become not so believable that Oz keeps being able to like get himself out of these absolutely fucked situations. Like in this episode alone, really through 2 episodes, what he survived being tortured because he was suspected as killing this psycho serial killer's brother, a heist gone wrong in which he is in the vehicle that is being heisted where everyone else in that vehicle dies, an interrogation where dudes are lined up against a wall and they're trying to figure out who the rat is, and he is the rat.
Don't forget the Persians are about to knife his ass.
What?
The heist goes wrong. Then their guy gets kidnapped, and that's when he gives them the Johnny VD photographs.
Oh yeah.
He has to pull that card because they're about to stick him, man.
Yeah, those are the Maronis.
Yeah. Did you say that?
You said Persians, and I was just like, who the fucking Persians? Yeah, okay, yeah, but
Are you watching like the inside the episodes?
No.
Yeah,
I didn't know there was an inside the episode.
I didn't realize there were either until like I turned on episode 2 and like I was still on episode 1, so it like picked up at the end of episode 1 and then it went into that and I was like,
shit.
I didn't realize we were getting these.
Okay.
So yeah, they go into that like she's Iranian. And they talk about how like they've kind of folded in like the Persian mafia here.
Oh, the mother Maroni is Iranian.
Iranian.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Got some other ethnic groups involved here.
Correct. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I believe that's like you probably didn't know what language she was speaking.
No, I had no fucking clue what that was.
I didn't either. And that is that's Farsi, also known as Persian.
Okay.
Spoken in Iran, Afghanistan.
Got it. Yeah, she busted out at the prison too, and I was just like, foreign language noted.
Yes. Yeah.
It didn't care to figure out which one it was. Point being, he has survived like 7 different near-death experiences in the first 2 episodes, and that can't just be the main motor of the show.
I agree with that as well.
You know what I mean? They're going to need some other ways to keep it interesting, keep it fresh week to week.
Right, and it's fun to watch him squirm and wriggle out of these situations. But again, we also want to see him, like you kind of said, you want to see both he and Sophia kind of operating in full force. Yeah, like let's get these 2 kind of operational and functional and like humming along, and then you can knock them down. Then you can have them step into the pitfalls, obviously. But
right,
I'm totally with you. I don't want every single episode to be the snafu of the week. Basically.
Oz has a plan. The plan goes horribly wrong. Oz wriggles his way out of it. That's gonna get old eventually. So yeah, it's only 2 episodes. It's just a pattern that I'm like a little worried about so far. That and the mom thing with the dementia and the dancing, like that's gotta. I hope they have a good plan for where that's going as well, because it's kind of concerning me. And then, yeah. I mean, there's enough going on here. There's enough going on here to make it exciting and entertaining. We just need to see some good storytelling, and that's kind of that. So we have episode 3 coming out on Sunday. It is nice to have something on Sunday night, frankly. Mm-hmm. Even if now I'm like, maybe it was a Thursday show. You know? But yeah, maybe I'll get higher on it as the season goes on. I don't want to bury it just yet.
Yeah, we're not burying it.
Nah. Can't bury it just yet. All right, so Barrett and I will be back later this week on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles, where, remember, there is a plethora, as I like to say, of ad-free exclusive content that we have released over the years, including a companion podcast for every single episode of The Sopranos that Barrett and I did during the old pandemic. So it's a nice kind of a weird time capsule there. Multiple members of the Clam fam have pointed out that we'll make references to like COVID times during the pods.
Yeah.
But if you've never watched The Sopranos, or if you're doing a rewatch, either way, the podcast is friendly to first-timers and rewatchers. It was Barrett's first time watching The Sopranos, and it was my 7th time watching The Sopranos, and we had a ton of fun doing a companion podcast for every single episode in the same style that we are now doing for The Penguin, that we did for House of the Dragon, that we did for Game of Thrones, 8 years ago. That is available exclusively on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles. You also have all of our bonus episodes for House of the Dragon seasons 1 and 2, featuring hotline calls from listeners and further exploration of every episode. Also, The White Lotus season 2, Succession's final season, The Last of Us season 1. There's so much content on Patreon. Get in there, and later this week, we will be dropping our Penguin Season 1, Episode 2 hotline call-driven episode where we take calls from the members of the Mollusk Militia on Patreon and respond to them, further discussing and digesting this week's episode of The Penguin. Also, there's a 7-day free trial available right now on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles, where you can get in there, and for 7 days, you can just check out the content that we have available, all the awesome episodes that are ad-free, and enjoy this week's Hotline Call Driven episode, and then stick around on Patreon to support the show. And that's that, Barrett. That's all I got.
Yeah,
Any other notes from you today? Anything else you've been watching? Oh, I want to ask you about this briefly. I'm assuming you've seen all of the drama, the memes, the jokes, and some of the reviews of Megalopolis.
I have, yes.
I want to go see it in theaters.
Most notably, the Adam Driver clip. Then go back to the club.
Go back to the club.
Go back to the club.
Yeah.
Which is...
I've watched it like 7,000 times. I
Why
can't
is it
explain
so-
why I keep going back to it. Last night, at one point, I was
Why
like...
is it so good?
I was having trouble falling asleep, and I was like, I'll just pull up the old Adam Driver Back to the Club scene and watch that several more times until I fall asleep.
I'm having such a hard time getting a read on it because there are people that seem to think it's good, but like the vast majority of reviews are just utter dog shit. But like,
You either think it's great, pure cinema, or it's the worst movie ever made. And there
Okay.
doesn't seem to be anyone in between.
it looks like the worst movie ever made. Like every time the trailer comes on, I'm like, this cost how much?
$120 million of his own
own
money,
money.
Francis Ford Coppola. He sold part of his winery for
Right.
like his winery
Yeah,
empire just to self-finance this insane movie that then he apparently was just like smoking weed on the set all day every day.
Also, I don't know if you've seen any of like the press or like interviews with Adam Driver. The look on Adam Driver's face doing press for this movie is that one of like, I'm upset with the decision that I made. I've made a huge
Like,
mistake.
I can't believe I got dragged into this.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw somebody on Twitter saying that he needs to fire his agent.
He does, because he had this exact same look for that dinosaur movie that he did.
He's done some weird shit, for sure. But he's
Yeah.
also done some huge winners.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And he was in, like, the Star Wars stuff. So
He's fine.
I
He's
think
just
he's
fine,
doing
but-
okay. But, yeah, it does feel like he's in one of those spots, Adam Driver, where he's now one of the most, like, respected actors in Hollywood. But you have to maintain that sort of prestige path to greatness.
Yeah, do you know whose trajectory he reminds me of right now? He's
Who?
kind of like on the Nick Cage trajectory.
Yeah, which is not... that's not great.
No.
I mean, no disrespect to Nick Cage, but like Nick Cage and like Keanu Reeves, they fall into this category that's like almost a joke.
Right.
Like we love them, but it's also like, you know, they're not Jack Nicholson. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Or like Robert De Niro or like Leonardo DiCaprio, to bring the age down a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. It's just Adam Driver. Weird career, man. Started in Girls. Remember? He's just Lena Dunham's fucking quirky weirdo
Weird-ass boyfriend. Yeah,
and he's turned into like a full-fledged superstar. And yeah, he ends up in this good or bad, bizarre Francis Ford Coppola film,
Yeah.
Megalopolis, that I feel obligated to see in theaters because I don't think it's going to hit the same at home because it's this insane production with these wild-ass visuals. Apparently, there's one scene in the movie that just looks completely different than every other scene in terms of quality,
Okay.
like way better, but it's only one scene,
That's where he spent most of the $120 million, is on the one scene.
I guess.
Also, isn't Shia LaBeouf in this
Shia
movie?
LaBeouf is in the fucking cast is wild. I've also heard, I'll just give you a couple other things I've heard, that every like conflict that is introduced in the plot is wrapped up within 5 minutes of being introduced and never mentioned again.
Okay.
Also, Adam Driver's character in the film apparently has the superpower to stop time dead in its tracks,
Okay.
and he uses it 0 times in the entire movie. He never once does it. So they just introduce it as like a thing he can do, and then he literally never does it in the whole movie. This is the kind of shit where I'm like, I got to see this in person. I got to see the freak show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like Francis Ford Coppola has done some of my favorite movies, and I've drank a lot of his wine back in the day when I still drank. And I don't know, man. Something about this thing is drawing me to the theater, though. I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to go. So I was just wondering where you were at with that thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested. Definitely
Just not as
seem-
interested as me.
just not as interested as you. Yeah. That my thing is I'm like there's a couple of like obscure movies that I'd also like to get to the theater for. Namely, I would like to go see Beetlejuice, and then this weekend I will not get to go see it because I'm doing ACL, but I want to see the Saturday Night Live movie.
Oh yeah. Well, also Joker too. You don't want to go see the musical? That's not a musical.
Something's going on with Joker too. Has the hype just fallen off a cliff or something?
I've seen it getting panned a little bit.
I think this movie's
far.
going to flop.
I don't know. I want to go see that one too.
Why in all the
feel...
trailers that are running for Joker at the moment are they not saying the name of the movie? They just keep calling it Joker in the trailers. Have you seen this?
They're not saying Folie à Deux?
Yeah, because nobody knows how to say that.
Because nobody knows how to say it.
It's weird. It's weird.
Have you listened to the Gaga album yet?
I've not. See, that's the thing. I'm like, what?
I don't know, man. You're not wrong. A lot of weirdness in the theater right now. I kind of like it. I don't know why. I kind of like it. All right, yeah. We'll be back later this week on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles. Follow Barrett at Barrett Dudley on Instagram and Twitter. Follow me at WR Bolin.
We obviously want to hear your takes on Penguin and Batman and Matt Reeves and all that. But yeah, call about any of this stuff. Call about whatever you want.
Yeah.
As all per usual.
Probably not going to be a ton more to eat up in terms of this Penguin episode.
Yeah,
so any takes.
Yeah.
We want to hear them on patreon.com/oysters.
Yeah, if you've seen Megalopolis, give us a spoiler-free call about it.
Yes, that would be fantastic. I would appreciate that. Spoiler-free.
I know we've got some listeners. I know we've got some real movie buffs that a couple of them that I'm thinking about that call into Patreon pretty frequently.
I don't even know if you can spoil that movie.
That I'm sure have seen it already.
Yeah. All right.
Call us, Shane.
Thank you for being here today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We look forward to hearing everyone's reactions to the Penguin episode 2 on Patreon. Also reading y'all's takes on social media. Until next time, waddle, 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 waddle.